Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Axis Bank completes the acquisition of Citi's India consumer business for 11,600 crore rupees. The move will bring 3 million Citi customers into the Axis fold. The deal will grow Axis's card balance sheet by 57%. Domestic and commercial cooking gas gets costlier. Households will now have to pay 50 rupees more per cylinder, while cylinders to commercial establishments will cost 350 rupees more. This is the second biggest one-time hike since 2014. The bulls are back after an 8-day break. The Sensex and the Nifty gained nearly 1% each, despite a slightly lower than expected GDP growth number. All listed Adani Group entities end in the green for the first time since the 13th of January. The firms have added 75,000 crores in market cap over the last two trading sessions. The auto sector's February sales numbers are a mixed bag. Passenger vehicle sales remain on a strong footing, but exports struggle. Tractor sales hit high gear. GST collections come in just shy of 1.5 lakh crore rupees for February. That's 12% higher year on year, but a tad lower than the January number. This puts the monthly collections above 1.4 lakh crore rupees for the 12th month in a row. Billionaire philanthropist and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates says India is positioned to become the cheapest 5G market in the world, cites competitive pressures, a great digital network, and higher percentage of people using smartphones as enablers. Other countries can see if they can replicate India's digital infra model, says Gates. IT industry body NASSCOM says clients remain conservative with budgets as the Russia-Ukraine war and high global inflation add to uncertainties, but add that India remains a bright spot. NASSCOM chairperson tells CNBC-TV18 that a majority of Indian IT companies are also treading with caution. Foreign ministers of G20 nations and heads of delegations arrive in India for pre-summit discussions. Russia-Ukraine war to be on the agenda, along with multilateralism, food, energy security, and counter-terrorism. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holds bilateral meetings with delegates, including UK, Russia, and Turkish counterparts. Dish TV's minority shareholders allege breach of corporate governance practices by the satellite television provider. A letter to the stock exchanges SEBI and the company's creditors alleges that the board delayed the appointment of directors approved by the ministry. The company calls the allegations wrong, baseless, and malicious. 5 people dead in the latest Russian bombing on Ukraine's Kherson region. 3 people killed in Donetsk. Russia claims a military drone targeted its gas facility in Moscow. Russian Defense Ministry says it's thwarted 2 drone attacks. The US says it does not expect significant Russian territorial gains in 2023. All of that and more coming up for you on this edition of India Business Hour. But let's get started with the day's market action. After 8 days of losing, it was time for a reversal, and a fairly strong reversal at that, despite a weaker than expected quarterly GDP reading on Monday and sustained concerns over more rate hikes. Indices gained ground today. The Sensex and the Nifty both ending nearly 1% higher. The mid-cap index over a 1.5% higher. The Bank Nifty was up by about 2%. Foreign portfolio investors continue to offload Indian shares. Provisional data shows that FIIs sold equity worth 425 crore rupees in trade today. Over the last month, FPIs have sold shares worth 5,700 crore rupees. On the other hand, domestic institutional investors have bought shares worth 1,500 crore rupees today, taking their total monthly purchase to 20,700 crore rupees. Well, despite coming in for the Adani Group stocks as well, all 10 group stocks ending the session in the green. Adani Enterprises gained the most. Adani Green, Adani Power, Adani Total and Adani Transmission also ended close to 5% higher. This is the first time since the 13th of January that all group stocks have closed with gains. Together, these stocks have added a little over 44,000 crore rupees in market cap today. And with this, the combined market cap has now increased 11% over the last 2 sessions, returning to levels above 7.5 lakh crore rupees. Now, Axis Bank has completed its acquisition of Citigroup's India consumer business for a little over 11,600 crore rupees. The deal, which was announced in March last year and received the green signal from the competition regulator in July, is now finally done. Ritu Singh and Arundhati Ramanan reports on what this means for Axis Bank and for Citi's 30 lakh customers.
It's the end of an era for Citibank in India. Its 120-year-long presence in India will be diminished greatly with Axis Bank completing its acquisition of Citi's India consumer business. Effective the 1st of March, all of Citi's customers across its credit card, retail banking, wealth management and consumer loans will become Axis Bank customers. This comes nearly 2 years after Citi announced that it will close down its retail business in India and a year after Axis Bank entered into an agreement with Citi to acquire this portfolio.
We have completed this acquisition before the timelines we had told you when we announced the acquisition. We don't need any capital to pay for these deals. Numbers are better than our initial expectations for Citi staff joining the Axis Bank platform. Changes in key parameters largely remain along expected lines.
So what exactly does this 11,603 crore rupee deal give Axis Bank? First, it gets Citi's credit card portfolio of 1.8 million plus card holders. Second, deposits to the tune of 39,900 crores, 77% of which is CASA. Third, access to 1,600 Suvidha corporate relationships. Fourth, Citi's wealth and private banking franchise housing 94,700 crore rupees in assets under management across products including Citi Gold Private, Citi Gold, Citi Priority and Citi Private Bank customers. Fifth, aggregate ending net receivables of 27,300 crores across Citi's credit cards, mortgage, personal and ready credit loans, asset-backed finance and small business loans. In addition, Axis Bank will get access to 6 Citi offices, 21 branches and 459 ATMs spread across India. Citi's 3,200 employees will also be absorbed into Axis Bank.
The acquisition engine of Axis on credit card acquisition side continues to fire extremely well. There has absolutely been no slowdown in January or February as far as Axis Bank's credit card acquisition engine.
Citi's high-margin credit card business is the most lucrative part of the deal. Axis Bank's market share in the credit card space would improve from 11.4% to 16.2%, with the acquired portfolio expanding Axis Bank's credit card customer base by nearly 19%. Experts say this will help seal Axis Bank's position in metros, especially since Citi's card users have the highest number of transactions per card across the industry, not to mention more digitally engaged customers. After the acquisition, Axis Bank will also gain ready access to Citi's affluent wealth customers, resulting in a 33% addition to overall AUMs in its private banking portfolio. An additional AUM of 94,700 crores across Citi products in wealth management and private banking would push Axis Bank's wealth management portfolio AUM to 3.78 lakh crore rupees, making it the third largest in the industry.
The speed of LD1, which is the date today, has increased our confidence to complete the full integration seamlessly within 18 months post this date. We continue to be extremely confident about what this transaction does for us, what it will do to the premiumization of our franchise, what we can do when we bring the best practices from both Axis and Citi to both the customers of Citi and Axis.
In its 120-year-long innings in India, Citi has been a key mover in the consumer banking space. It pioneered plastic money in India and the use of ATMs during the 1980s. However, over the years, Citi began to see profits from its consumer business slide in the face of rising competition from domestic banks. Citi was not the only one facing this problem. Global brands like Barclays, ANZ Grindlays, RBS and Commonwealth Bank of Australia have had to resort to either trimming their operations or exited India altogether. For Citi's 30 lakh plus customers in India, it's over to Axis Bank now. With Ritu Singh in Bangalore, in Mumbai, Arundhati Ramanan.
Well, the end of an era for Citi in India. Now, oil prices giving up gains as we've seen a rise in US crude inventories, giving hope that there is adequate supply to meet the higher demand from China. Brent above $84 a barrel, NYMEX crossing $77 in early trade before giving into profit booking. But some traders see this as part of a longer up move since China has registered a rise in manufacturing activity, and it's the fastest in over 10 years. PMI for February coming in at a much higher than expected 52.6 against 50.1. This has been seen as a sign that oil demand from the world's largest importer may be set to rise in the coming months as the economy recovers from over 2 years of lockdowns. The prices of domestic and commercial LPG cylinders have been increased by oil marketing companies with effect from today. This is the second biggest one-time hike in LPG prices. Sonal Bhutra standing by with the details. Sonal, what exactly has led to these price hikes?
Well, yes, it's a big price hike that has come through as far as the LPG prices are concerned. On the commercial side, even bigger, 350 rupees per cylinder, and it is above the 2100 rupees mark in a long time. It is a 20% increase that we have seen from the previous levels. As far as the retail or the 14.2 kg cylinder price is concerned, something that we use in our own homes, there the price hike has been to the tune of 4.7%, and this has been increased to 1103 rupees per cylinder as well. Now, this is the second biggest hike in the commercial space that we have seen in the LPG price as well. The last one was seen in 2014. Generally, how are these LPG prices calculated domestically? It is a function of import parity price, which is determined on the basis of LPG pricing abroad or in the international markets. International LPG prices, they are dependent on how crude prices move internationally. It is a function of that. So the way crude prices will be, we'll see that impact on international LPG prices, and that is how we will determine our own prices, assuming that this fuel is largely imported in the country as well. The major factors that impact LPG prices include, of course, international crude prices. The second is how rupee has been versus the dollar. If it has depreciated a lot more, then we'll see higher prices as well. Port charges, dealer commissions, insurance, etc. are some of the other costs as well. But the fact is, we've not seen a major rupee depreciation. We've not seen higher crude oil prices as well. Globally, gas prices also have been falling. In European markets, they are at a multi-month low. US gas prices have almost become 1/3 from the peak levels. So there are no major reasons as to why this would have happened. But yes, it's a sharp increase that we've seen, and definitely something which will impact customers all around.
Sonal, many thanks for joining us. Meanwhile, the price of aviation turbine fuel has been revised in line with softening international oil prices. Jet fuel prices were cut by 4% to 1.07 lakh per kilolitre in Delhi. The prices had been cut by a little over 4,606 rupees per kilolitre. GST collections have come in just shy of 1.5 lakh crores in February. This is 12% higher than a year ago, but a tad lower than the January number. And this has put the monthly figure above 1.4 lakh crore rupees for the 12th month in a row. And India's manufacturing activity remains in expansion mode in February, but it's seen a marginal decline versus the previous month. As per the S&P Global Survey, India's PMI at 55.3 in February, this against 55.4 in January, and higher input cost seems to be the reason. Another important data point is that growth was largely sustained on the back of robust domestic markets as new orders from abroad increased only marginally. Now, ratings agency Moody's has revised its growth projections for India upward from 5 to 5.5% in 2023 and 6.5% in 2024. The agency has cited a sharp increase in capital expenditure in the budget allocation as the reason behind this upward revision. On the global front, Moody's expects G20 economies' growth to moderate from 2.7% in 2022 to 2% in 2023 and 2.4% in 2024. Shifting gears to the auto sector, sales for February, a mixed bag. Sonia standing by to wrap up all the numbers for us. Sonia, what's looking good and what's not?
It was a mixed bag for the auto sector this time around. Let's start with the positives. On the stronger side, you had the tractor makers that delivered very good numbers. Both Escorts and M&M reported a growth of more than 25% in their numbers. Escorts up 27.8% and M&M tractor sales up by 26% year on year. Even M&M auto sales were not too bad. Sales growth came in at 8% year on year at 58,800 units. Ashok Leyland's numbers were also quite good despite being slightly lower than what the street was estimating. Ashok Leyland total sales went up 27%. On the weaker side, though, you had the export companies that suffered quite a bit. Both Maruti and Bajaj Auto saw a big fall in exports this time. Maruti total sales growth of just under 5%, dragged down by a fall in exports. Exports down 28%. Bajaj Auto's total sales were down 11%, led by almost a 40% fall in the export piece for Bajaj Auto. Tata Motors as well saw a bit of a slowdown. In fact, the commercial vehicle sales for Tata Motors was down 3%, coming in at 36,565 units. So all in all, you'd have to say it was a mixed bag for the auto sector.
Mixed bag indeed. Sonia, many thanks for joining us. Now, Dish TV's minority shareholders have alleged breach of corporate governance practices by the satellite television provider. A letter to stock exchanges, SEBI and the company's creditors allege that the board delayed the appointment of directors approved by the ministry. The companies called the allegations wrong, baseless and malicious. Ritu's here with more. Ritu.
That's right, we do understand that Dish TV's Minority Investors Association has alleged a breach in corporate governance by Dish TV for failing to disclose to exchanges a letter from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting which had approved director nominations on its board. Now, we accessed this letter, which was written by the Minority Investor Association, which has been addressed to the board of Dish TV and also copied to SEBI, stock exchanges, various creditors and other stakeholders. And in this letter, they stated that they obtained this information through an RTI that the ministry had approved names of 6 independent directors for appointment on the board of Dish TV on 26th of December last year. And since then, Dish TV failed to disclose the information to the stock exchanges and also delayed the appointment of directors which were approved by the ministry, thereby committing a breach in corporate governance. Now, these minority shareholders in their letter to the board have demanded that the company convene a board meeting and appoint the ministry-approved directors and hold the management accountable. Now, this is a significant development because it comes just days ahead of Dish TV's EGM, which is scheduled on the 3rd of March, where it is going to seek shareholders' approval to nominate 4 independent directors. And herein lies another issue, because remember, the tussle over Dish TV's board composition has been ongoing between Yes Bank and Dish TV, and according to our sources in Yes Bank, the names proposed by Dish TV do not include any Yes Bank nominees which were approved by the ministry. And not just that, of the 4 names that have been proposed by Dish, 2 have not been approved by the ministry. Now, remember, Yes Bank holds about 24% stake in Dish, which of course now it has transferred to JC Flowers. Dish TV, however, in an exchange clarification, has denied these allegations and called them wrong, malicious, incorrect and baseless. It said that the company is in compliance with all SEBI regulations and the current composition of the board as well is in line with the listing rules and regulations, and said that it will be submitting its response on these allegations which have been made to the NSE by the 6th of March.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us. Here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Akasa CEO Vinay Dubey has hinted at a 3-digit aircraft order by the end of 2023. Speaking exclusively to Ritu, Dubey said that he expects the airline to commence its international operations by the end of the year. He added that the company is looking to hire 300 pilots in the next 12 months.
We expect to fly internationally by the end of this calendar year, by December of 2023. Okay. The 2 aircraft a month or the aircraft every 15 days is going to end by the 20th aircraft. After that, we're going to move to a cadence where we deliver between 12 and 15 aircraft every year. So the cadence is going to slow down just a bit. However, going from 0 to 72 aircraft in 5 years is no sort of slouch or slow growth.
Well, from aviation to technology, IT industry body NASSCOM says clients remain conservative with budgets as the Russia-Ukraine war and high global inflation add to uncertainties. But NASSCOM has also added that India remains a bright spot. NASSCOM chairperson telling CNBC-TV18 that a majority of Indian IT companies, though, are treading with caution. Take a look.
While I'm not able to share any numbers for the year ahead, the survey broadly points to caution in the wind, right? And that's understandable. I think we've all known it for a while, that the war in Ukraine, the recessionary headwinds that are caused by the combination of the war and other geopolitical considerations that are going on, as well as the effect of inflation, the rate, US dollar strengthening, and so on and so forth. Most organizations globally are having a very hard time in terms of planning and the horizon at which they have to plan.
And you can catch the action from the NASSCOM Tech and Leadership Forum at 10 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. Here's the latest on the heatwave concerns. Indian Met Department says it has recorded deficient rainfall in February across India. The Met says that La Nina conditions still prevail in parts of the country and will likely weaken in March. The Met also predicts that maximum temperatures in northwest and central India will remain above normal from March to May. A cabinet reshuffle in Delhi after Manish Sisodia and Satinder Jain resigned from their positions. Senior party leader Saurabh Bhardwaj and Atishi Singh are to be inducted as ministers. Some of Sisodia and Jain's portfolios have been handed over to Kailash Gehlot and Rajkumar Anand in the interim. Madhya Pradesh government tabled a 3.14 lakh crore rupee budget for the coming fiscal year. The government also allocated 8,000 crore rupees for a scheme under which 1,000 rupees will be deposited in the bank account of non-income tax paying women. However, no new tax proposals have been announced. Billionaire philanthropist and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates says India is positioned to become the cheapest 5G market in the world. Speaking at a G20 event in the capital, Gates said India's digital infra can be an example for the world, and India's G20 presidency will expose the world to its benefits. Gates went on to say that other countries can see if they can replicate India's digital infra model. Ashmit Kumar brings us the highlights.
Tech titan, philanthropist and billionaire Bill Gates today, as a part of his India visit, arrived in New Delhi where he called on the Minister for Telecom, IT and Railways, Ashwini Vaishnav. As a part of this interaction, Bill Gates, while speaking to the public, said that number one, India has championed the cause of developing an open, equitable digital infrastructure that will push the twin agendas of innovation and inclusion. And moreover, he went on to say that as a part of India's G20 presidency, this is an ideal opportunity for India to expose the world to the benefits of this digital infrastructure.
No country has done more, no country's built a more comprehensive platform than India. Can be such an example for other countries. As I said, the Indian system is more ambitious in its breadth.
Well, chiming in on that, Ashwini Vaishnav, the Minister for Telecom, IT and Railways, went ahead to say that India has developed its own indigenous 4G and 5G stack and that it will be taking on this opportunity, the G20 presidency, to present it to the world.
India has developed a complete end-to-end 4G, 5G telecom technology stack. It was a very, very difficult task, but within a very short time frame of about 20 months, a robust and totally virtualized telecom stack has been developed.
Interestingly, Bill Gates also pointed out this one key component, this one key ingredient that will accelerate the adoption of this digital infrastructure.
The competitive private market activity has meant that the connectivity is very, very good, it's very reliable, it's the cheapest in the world. That same thing is going to happen with 5G in this country. There is no doubt. This will be the cheapest 5G market.
He also spoke on the need for this digital infrastructure to travel beyond the conventional sectors into addressing more conventional issues in the country, such as delays caused by the Indian judiciary and the Indian courts.
As everyone learns from India, there's a lot of metrics where you can look and say, okay, are there other best practices like a digital justice system that a few countries are doing a very good job on that and therefore getting quick resolution in that area.
Well, as India proceeds with its G20 presidency, finding support for its digital infrastructure from quarters such as Bill Gates, there's a keen eye waiting to watch for how many takers is India able to find for its digital infrastructure. In New Delhi, Ashmit Kumar.
Well, Gates along support of India's digital stack, including the Aadhaar. Time for us to head into a short break, but up next, foreign ministers of G20 nations and heads of delegations arrive in India for pre-summit discussions. Also on the show, days after hosting G20 finance ministers and central bank governors in Bengaluru, New Delhi is all set to roll out the red carpet for foreign ministers. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will host Chinese Foreign Minister, the Russian Minister Lavrov, and the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. A formal inaugural dinner is scheduled later tonight. It is going to be a tightrope walk for India diplomatically, with ties between the West and Russia at an all-time low. The West has also been wary of China's recent engagements with the Kremlin. Parikshit joins us now with more. Parikshit, big diplomatic meeting. What's on the agenda?
Days after hosting G20 finance ministers and central bank governors in Bengaluru, New Delhi is all set to roll out the red carpet for foreign ministers. 40 delegations, including 28 foreign ministers, will participate in the meetings at the Cultural Centre in Rashtrapati Bhavan. The high-level meetings will be attended by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang, and France's Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna. While the Russia-Ukraine war is most likely to feature during the discussions, and there will be heated debates on the war as well, the discussions will also focus on food and energy security, development cooperation, green growth, gender equality and counterterrorism. These will be some of the top priorities that India will be laying on the table. The foreign ministers and delegates will also be calling on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Prime Minister Modi is also likely to address one of the sessions of the foreign ministers. While all eyes will be on Russia's response on the Ukraine war, Russia says it will focus on attempts by the West to take revenge for inevitable disappearance of its dominance from world stage. Meanwhile, the External Affairs Ministry said Russia and China will need to explain why they no longer support the Bali Declaration and its wording on the Ukraine war. Back to you.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. All eyes on the G20 foreign ministers meeting, and the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken unlikely to meet with his Chinese and Russian counterpart. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.